So this time last year, OVERWERK and I launched the iPhone standby dock. This design that was inspired by Adira Ram's alarm clock blew up. Millions of views, followed by hundreds of videos about our project.
Standby dock.
The iPhone dock.
And it goes way too hard.
I absolutely love it.
What started out as a passion project we wanted to share with the world became a quick buck for hundreds of people we've never met, selling knockoffs of our design on Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Etsy, all sorts of websites. They stole and reposted my videos and product photos to use for their ads. People created websites and full companies seemingly overnight off the back of our work.
What the heck is this?
And when we finally decided to bring it to market and produce it and sell it ourselves, what followed was months of problem solving. We hit so many roadblocks in manufacturing, strikes, and even product recalls. And through all these challenges, we learned so much about the world of product design and sales. So OVERWERK and I wanted to share this journey with all of you. Why we did what we did, everything we learned, and how much we invested and what we gained in the end. But before I get into it, we are launching one last production run of our iPhone standby docks, this time with additional support for iPhone 12 and 13 mini, along with some limited edition colors. So head over to OVERWERK's shop, link in the description below, to grab one for whatever iPhone model or Apple case you're using, and thank you for supporting our work. So this project all started when OVERWERK hit me up about a year ago with the idea of creating this iPhone dock. The thing is, he actually came up with this whole idea before Apple even launched standby mode. Yeah, kind of wild. So he initially wanted to build like a whole clock app and everything around it. It was pretty cool. Many people thought that the project was mostly mine, but in actuality, it was mostly designed by him. My biggest contributions were just the AirPods charger, the ejection mechanism, and the video itself. So yeah, even though he's mostly known for his fantastic music, he's also a super talented artist and designer with a ton of cool projects he's always cooking up. Anyway, he saw my Macintosh Studio project and video and thought the standby dock project would be perfect for us to work together on. Now, Bamboo Lab sponsored the initial video, but the project itself wasn't meant to make any money. It was never meant to be a product we would sell, so we shared everything for free. The design files, project files, all free. And when people started sharing photos of their versions on their desks and nightstands, we loved it. People measured their own phones and devices and created a version for just about every phone and device you can think of. It's amazing. Then things started to escalate. Within the first few days, people started selling these on Amazon, and then it was on Temu, TikTok Shop, eBay, Etsy, and everywhere else. Someone straight up even started selling our project files, despite the fact that we were sharing them for free, which is so ridiculous. It's definitely not the first time my projects have been copied or stolen without my permission before, though. I actually offer a commercial license for my personal designs as part of my YouTube membership benefits. However, since this iPhone dock was OVERWERK's initial idea, this design was not included in that license. And I'm very clear about that in writing and when people ask me. But people went ahead anyway, reused my photos and videos, all without permission. Even now, a whole year later, I still randomly get tagged in ads by people reusing my videos to sell knockoffs of this project. The big problem though was when we learned that not only were people selling our exact designs, but they were also doing it very sloppily without testing anything. Like they would basically grab my design files, estimate dimensions for other iPhone models, and just start selling these docks without any testing. So oftentimes they wouldn't fit people's phones, or the ejection buttons would jam up. And since most of them use my content for promotion, people assumed we were responsible for these bad products. We literally started receiving messages about people's issues with the knockoffs. So fans of our design were getting scammed by opportunistic sellers who didn't care about this product. So OVERWERK and I got on a call and decided if this thing was going to be sold, we should be the ones doing it. And it should be done with care and attention to detail. We wanted to test everything, every model, improve the design, and actually make sure that what we're putting out there with our names attached to it would be something we're proud of. It sounded so simple. The design was already near perfect, but I was so wrong. Things always get more complicated when you're launching a hardware accessory. First, I had to adjust the design to fit every MagSafe iPhone model and all official Apple cases. I gathered as many iPhones and cases as I could, but the challenge is every iPhone model has just slightly different dimensions, and we can't make a separate dock for every model and case. That would be way too many versions to manage. So the goal was to reduce the number of dock sizes, basically. I found that a few of the iPhone model sizes were similar enough that they could all share the same dock size without any major noticeable gaps. I spent thousands of dollars on all of this, but since I only needed them for quick measurements and testing, I was able to return and resell them without any problems. Companies that refurbished iPhones were also a great source for cheap iPhones. I also found these dummy prop iPhones, which are nearly perfect replicas used for display stands or as movie props, and these are super cheap. I then created these half docks to reduce the amount of plastic and print time needed for each iteration. Then Apple came out with a new MagSafe charger that was just slightly thinner, so the designs all needed to be tweaked to compensate for that. Super annoying stuff. I also refined the underside cavity to use less plastic and make insertion of the Apple Watch charger easier for those with larger hands. Meanwhile, Overwork was busy talking to a few 3D print farms, and ultimately, he picked this one that was in Toronto, Canada, near where he was living at the time. Now, these guys are called Voxelite, and they're definitely not the most well-known print farm. They're a newer company, but they felt like they were the most eager to work with us. In our communication, I could tell how engaged and passionate they were about helping us bring our product to market. Ultimately, I just think that's so much more important than any other factor. Their 3D printer's auto eject system and print farm software presented us with a few design challenges, but they were like super engaged in helping us problem solve all of that and sending us sample after sample. They even worked directly with me to tweak the designs for their production setup and even proposed solutions that made 3D printing the dock's overhangs way cleaner. It was great working with these guys. Everything was moving smoothly until about a week before launch, I got COVID. I was completely out of commission, and we still hadn't finished testing all the iPhone models. Thankfully, Overwork took over. He worked directly with Voxelite to get the remaining prototypes 3D printed. Then, he literally took all of them to an Apple store and got them to bring out every remaining iPhone model in case we haven't tested yet, and tested them right there on the spot. Dude completely saved the day. He finished the rest of the checklist for me and even brought on his friend Jeremy, a talented engineer, to help out with the launch. And at this point, I was finally starting to recover and everything was finally falling into place leading up to the launch. But everything I've mentioned so far took place in just 2 weeks. It was wild how fast we were moving. And at this point, I really thought since the design was finally done, everything else would be easy from there, but that was not the case. Now, because we didn't launch the product alongside the original video, we were a month late at this point. We knew that any kind of announcement video or content we create at this point won't have the same kind of reach in comparison to the original. But just in case things took off again, we wanted to make sure our manufacturing partners were prepared for a large volume of orders day one. We wanted them to be ready with all the necessary materials so they could start firing up their 3D printers the moment the first order came in. So we placed a huge bulk order of filament for them. 286 rolls of matte white PLA and matte black PLA. After taxes and everything, it came to $4,700. This was kind of our first and only big financial investment, which is pretty wild because with traditional manufacturing, we would have spent way more by this point. And technically, it was all entirely optional too. We could have just waited for the first orders to come in and use that money to cover the cost of materials, but I'm glad we didn't do that because although our announcement video didn't reach 18 million views, they still got us a couple hundred pre-orders within just the first week. Voxelite immediately started running their 3D printers 24/7 for us. They started shipping out orders early and buying more filament as more orders came in. Then a month into this, like 2 months before our official promised start shipping date,
Canadian Postal Service has ground to a halt nationwide after
55,000 postal workers.
55,000 workers went on strike.
Yeah, the entire Postal Service of Canada shut down, a national calamity, and our product was stuck in the middle of this mess. hundreds of customers waiting for their orders, emailing us asking if they would receive it before the holidays. We immediately got quotes from UPS and FedEx, but the lowest quote we got was still way too high. It was all in the $50 to $70 range, which is basically the cost of the product. We were going to wait it out at first, but then days turned into weeks and the strike was still going. We were getting desperate. One of the guys from Voxelite even offered to load up his car with orders, drive them across the border to ship them from the US. Our team even got in touch with a commercial goods import broker to explore that option. 2 weeks in, we decided it was time to warn our customers about this potential shipping delay. We sent out emails and I posted on my Instagram story announcing this, and little did I know this would actually lead us to the solution, because another fellow creator, Jankmart, loved this guy. He saw our announcement and he's faced similar shipping issues before in the past. He told us about a service he was using called Chit-Chats. I know, super weird name for a shipping company, but it's basically a service that helped Canadian businesses ship their stuff through USPS in the US. With his referral, we moved forward with Chit-Chats immediately and they resolved a lot of problems for us. Like before Chit-Chats, one of our guys caught Canada Post just chucking our packages into the back of their truck. Not great. This led to a few customers receiving damaged docks, so we had to send out replacements, which is super tedious and just such a bad experience for our customers. So from then on, we started adding fragile stickers to our shipments, and this hasn't been a problem since. Another problem Voxelite brought to our attention is an awkward one regarding Slant 3D. Yeah. So Slant 3D is a pretty popular print farm, and you might know them from their YouTube channel. They have a pretty big following. Well, it turns out they were using a photo of our iPhone dock on their website as if they were working with us. We were pretty upset because not only did it look like we were working with another manufacturing partner behind Voxelite's back, but they were a company we almost partnered with. So it felt like even though we decided not to work with them, they essentially took our design and proceeded to sell them without us. It even made us wonder if they're connected to any of the knockoffs we've been seeing. But please don't feel negatively towards Slant 3D or go to their channel and show any kind of hate, because in the end, when we reached out to them, they explained it was just a mistake due to miscommunication on their end and immediately removed the photo. I still keep in touch with Gabe and I really enjoy Slant 3D's YouTube channel, but I never would have expected this type of problem, and it's just one of the many obstacles we faced. The rest of the journey was no smooth sailing too. Of course, we would also run into manufacturing issues. We had to recall a small batch of docks because specific MagSafe cables wouldn't fit through them. OVERWERK also had to get help with after sales services, like the hundreds of customer support emails, DMs, and comments about all sorts of questions people had. Accounting and taxes also turned out to be quite complicated with the hundreds of transactions coming in and out, international transactions. Meanwhile, money needed to go out to Voxelite and we were splitting the profit, so it was all a mess. And all this was happening while I still had my 9-to-5 job, so I was constantly exhausted. During all this, it truly felt like everything that could go wrong went wrong. So was it worth it? So before today, we sold these iPhone docks for a total of 4 months, selling a couple thousand units. Because each unit uses different amounts of plastic due to their size differences, Voxelite charged us a varying amount for manufacturing each unit. They all ended up averaging at around $18 per unit though to be made, packaged, and fulfilled. So in the end, the manufacturing accounted for about 20% of all our income. Filament and materials accounted for 5%. Shipping fees were about 11%, and business operation costs were around 5%. And a whopping 9% was lost to bank transaction and Shopify fees. Yeah, that one was a painful one. But in the end, the profit was a pretty healthy 50%. Given that we were a small operation that just started with an investment of $4,000 and there were really no risks to all this, and the fact that I still had my full-time job meant that my cut of the profit was on top of my existing salary. That's just for a month of work too, so that's kind of amazing. Of course, what's not accounted for in here are the hundreds of hours of making the initial video, all the design work that went into all this, but still, aside from the monetary gains too, I learned more from this journey than I've learned in years of launching products for other people's companies and from designing stuff for my YouTube channel. This opened up new doors in my mind, showing me just how much I can accomplish from the comfort of my home with a good design idea and through these videos. This whole journey was chaotic, but I 100% consider it a success, and the lessons learned are priceless. Here's my main takeaway though. What stops most people from launching a product or pursuing a large project like this for the first time? At least what's always stopped me is the fear that something might go wrong. And what I learned is that anything that might go wrong probably will. And it will suck. You can have 100 people immediately knock off your ideas and beat you to market before you even launch. People you trust can make mistakes and let you down. You can run into a million taxes and accounting issues, import fees, and be overwhelmed by hundreds of customer support emails. And you can end up misunderstood, and the systems you build your plans on can crumble overnight. In hindsight, it's almost funny how badly I underestimated just how brutal and unpredictable this process would be and how unprepared I was to face it all. But maybe that's the only reason we did this, because we were naive enough to think we actually could, smart enough to imagine it, and dumb enough to actually try. If I had known how messy things would get, how many things would go wrong, I might have waited. I might have hesitated, and I might have never even started. And that would have been the real failure here, because ideas that live in your head mean nothing to the world. You can plan things forever, but the only thing that moves you forward is that first step. And a strange thing that happens when you move with purpose is that people will notice. And the right ones, they'll show up and join you.
Nice.
Or help you get you to where you need to
We
go.
did it.
So take that first step. You won't regret it. Thanks for watching.
I'm just gonna borrow this guy.